Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Caregiver and Spoonie podcast. I'm your host, Jordan Banderas, and I just want to give you a quick reminder, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any episodes of the podcast. And also thank you for all the emails that we have received. A lot of you are reaching out, sharing your stories. And I really appreciate it. Thank you for that. And guess what? Together we're making this grow. We're getting more listeners, we're more followers, or more supporters on the that's my dog. More supporters on the and the reason why he's howling, just so you know, is like there's people outside, so he likes to howl. Sorry, I can't stop him. So we're getting more supporters and more listeners, which I really appreciate. So let's get into today's episode. One of the things that I wanted to talk about today is about don't be sorry about your story. A lot of us feel sorry about our stories. That's why we don't want to share them, because we feel ashamed, we feel sad about it, we feel angry, or we feel like we're going to become the victim. That's how I felt. Or we don't want to make other people look bad, the people that hurt us or anything like that. But one of the things that I realized while doing the vlog and literally telling my story is that your story can actually help you get out of that darkness that you might be in right now. Like, it helped me. The reason how it helped me, and like I said, this is just in regards in how it helped me. It might help you a different way. You might feel a different way. But the way that it helped me is that every time I would talk about my stories in the blog, I will hear them. I will consciously hear them and keep hearing them. And what happens in those type of situations is that your subconscious is going to hear it. And the way that I was saying is, like, yes, this happened and this is what made me today. That's the way that I was trying to express it. So what happened inside of me is that made me realize is that I'm a survivor. I'm stronger than what I think I am. And that no matter what are the circumstances, if it's bad, I can go through them and survive. If it's good, I will accept it no matter what. So this is why I always say, like, stories are powerful, because in a way you can inspire others, but also by listening to your story over and over and over, and don't worry about what people say. People might say, like, oh, you complain too much, and you can just say this. This is what I told somebody the other day. I'm not complaining. I'm listening to my story as I speak, and every time I do that, I tell myself, look at you. You survived that. You're such a badass. You deserve everything good that's coming into your life, because you have survived all of that. So that's a way to put it, pretty much. That has worked for me miracles. Like, it has worked for me in so many ways, because if you have listened to the blog, I was beat by a dog. A dog actually bit me in the leg. My mom beat me up growing up. My brother, all of this, my family made me feel awful about myself. I got hit by a bus. I got kicked out of schools, and I mean, when I look back through all of that, and even when my wife got sick and we lost everything, I look at everything that we have now, and it's like, wow, we went through everything like that. We went through everything that we did, and we still come on top. We still were able to come on top. So this is why I always say, don't hesitate on telling your story. Don't worry about what others say. Like I said, you can say something like what I tell people, like, I'm not complaining. I'm just telling my story, because it's a way for me to cheer up. To be like, okay, right now you're having a bad day, or right now all of these things are happening, but when I tell my story again, I look back and I say, like, what I'm going through right now is not as bad as what I went through, so I can survive through this. And obviously there are stories like abuse, sexual abuse, unfortunately happens, but at one point, and you might, unfortunately, sexual abuse is bad. It's extremely bad, and when I say that it's bad is like it happens a lot more than more than it should. I think the number for sexual abuse should be 0, but it happens way more than it should. And what I have noticed, this is by listening to people that have gone through something like that, is that they take control of their life. They tell their story without any shame. Like one of the cases that I can tell you is Elizabeth Smart. She was kidnapped. If you don't know who she is, then she was obviously, like she says, she was raped repeatedly. But once she was rescued, she was able to take control of her life. And that's pretty much a way that I did. I took control of my life. I took control of my emotions by telling my story, and now I'm in a better place. So if you're ashamed, if you feel ashamed of telling your story, don't be ashamed, because that's your story. It's part of you. Unfortunately, it's not going to go away. You can try to forget about it. I have tried to forget about my story, but at one point, unfortunately, it always comes back. So don't be ashamed. Accept it. That's the thing. We have to accept that. Once we accept that, we can actually process it, and then we can move on from it. When you move on from it, at least this is what happened to me, when you move on from it and you accept it, you can take control of your life. So, for example, in my case, I took control of my life, and the first thing that I did is that I put boundaries with my family. They didn't like it. They still don't like it. But do I care? No, because I took control of my life. They can be like, oh, family is everything. Oh, I need money, or I need you to do this for me because you're my family. Now I can be like, you're stepping over my boundary, and unfortunately I can't do that right now, so no. And they get mad. But I don't care, because I am who I am, and by telling your story, you're gonna rediscover who you are as well. Like what we talked about in the previous and another episode, who are you? It's pretty much everything that happens to you, the good and the bad. You can't pick and choose which one you want to be. You're the good, you're the bad. But once you realize that, okay, this happened and I didn't have any control over that, but I'm gonna have control over how I react to it now, then you're gonna take control of everything that happens on your life. And that's what we need to do in order for us to be able to move on. It doesn't matter if you have depression, anxiety, or if you're facing an autoimmune disease or any type of health challenge, or either physical or mental. It doesn't matter, because once you take control of what's happening with your story or with your mind, the body will follow. And I'm going to talk more about that, because that's pretty much getting into the law of attraction, which is something that I've been studying. But it for me, it has helped me in so many ways to do it this way. So you can try it. You can do it your own way. If you do it your own way, don't forget to share it, because obviously it might work for some people, or other people might actually see it and they can be like, oh, I'm going to try a different way. But, and then another thing that I want to talk about is that we feel like, at least in my case, I felt bad for telling my story and everything that had happened to me, because I didn't want to make my family look bad. And the reason is because, like, for example, when I tried to run away, it was because of me doing bad in school. When my mom kicked me out, it was because I was fighting with my brother. With everything that happened, obviously, it happens because we might, in certain situations, not in all of them, but we might have actually caused that. So I kind of felt bad, like it was my fault. And yes, it was my fault in some cases, but at the same time, you can't control how other people react. Like when my mom kicked me out, when my uncle said like he was gonna send me back to Mexico, when I ran away, when I did this and when I did that, So I felt ashamed, or I felt bad. I felt like I didn't want to make my family feel bad. But one thing that I realized is that it doesn't matter how they feel. It's about how we feel as Spoonies. That's why I decided to tell my story. I decided to tell how my aunt told my mom that she didn't want us to move in the States. I have told pretty much everything, and there's more little stories that keep coming into my mind that obviously I'm going to share throughout the episodes. But this is why I wanted to make this episode, because I know that a lot of you feel ashamed, feel angry, feel that you guys have a wide range of emotions in regards to telling your story, but your story sometimes, depending on how you take it, or exactly what happened, or how you process it, it can be your salvation story. It could be your comeback story. It's like, yes, this is what happened to me. I went through this and that and that and that. But look at me now. Look at me where I'm at right now. And I have heard of so many stories like that. Like, I have shared the story of Inky Johnson, Nick Santonera. So unfortunately, I can't pronounce the last name, and I'm very sorry for that. And I have heard other stories like Les Brown, Eric Thomas, Tom Billiot, Tony Robbins, Bob Proctor. All these stories. And the other day, I forgot the name of the chef. I was reading this story about the chef that lost his hand, and he didn't let that stop him. A few days or a few weeks, I can't remember really well right now, he went back to cooking with his prosthetic, and he was able to keep doing it because he said, this is not about if I can do it, it's about how I know I can do it. And what he meant by that is that it's all in his mind. He knows he can do it. He knows that he can use the prosthetic a certain way, so he's going to take advantage of that. So he's able to cook. And I'm like, if he can do something like that by sharing his story or by saying like, yeah, I lost my arm, but that didn't stop me, then anybody else can do it. And it doesn't really matter what you went through. It's about what you decide to take from that story. What I took from my story is that I will always find a way. I have always found a way, and I don't quit. People made me feel like I should quit all the time, but that was because I wasn't in the right state at that point. I let them. So now I don't let them. I know that I can do it, and I will learn. It's like I said the other. I don't remember when I said this in another episode. I'm uneducated. I have to start all over again. Sometimes you have to do that based on your story. Sometimes you have to start all over again. And that's what I'm doing right now. I'm learning how to read. I'm learning how to speak. I'm learning how to pronunciate. I'm learning all this stuff about myself. So when you tell your story, take it as a learning experience, because you might even learn something about you when you tell it. And if somebody says like, you sound like you complain a lot, like I have mentioned, this is what worked for me, could work for you. Just say, I'm just telling my story because I know I'm going to learn something about how big of a survivor I am, or how big of a badass I am, because I know I can get through anything thanks to my story. So don't feel ashamed, don't feel sad, don't feel mad about it. Remember, this story is going to stay with you until the end, unfortunately. So might as well just grab the experience, and if it was a bad experience, learn from it. You always learn from any experience. Like, don't reject it. And obviously you don't have to accept it, but you have to consider it. You can consider it, it's like, yeah, this happened to me. What can I get from this experience? Like, you might have gotten like dumped by your boyfriend for whatever reason. It's like, okay, I gave my boyfriend everything. Why did I learn from it? Well, maybe it wasn't my fault. Maybe he was still in the childish ages in his mind where he didn't know how to literally take care of me or something like that, And when I say that, I'm talking about my brother, just so you guys know. So in that type of situation, don't be okay with in that type of situation, be okay with your story. It's part of you. It has shaped you in a certain way, but let's take the good out of that story and make our lives better. So like I say, it doesn't matter if you're a Spoonie, it doesn't matter if you're a caregiver, it doesn't matter who you are. Your story is valuable to yourself. It could be valuable to others because they might be able to learn something from you. And that's why I like to do this. But that's what I wanted to talk about today. I hope you guys are enjoying this episode. I hope you guys enjoying all of the episodes. And like I say, if you have any feedback, please comment, like, subscribe. You can send me an email with the feedback. You can share your story on our Facebook page or in our Facebook group. You can also send me your story anonymously at the caregiver and Spoonie at gmail.com. You can send me any questions. Like, I'm open for anything. I want to pretty much, like I said, I want to welcome you as a family. Everybody's gonna be a family member here, and I don't care who you are. If you have a story, you can share it. It's up to you. If you're not ready right now, it's okay as well. Whenever you're ready and whenever you want to share it, you can always share it wherever you want. And don't be ashamed, don't be sad, don't be angry. Remember, you can learn from this, and once you learn, at least it happened to me, you're able to move on to the next stage in your life. It doesn't matter if you have fibromyalgia, if you have something that puts you in bed or something. It's gonna shape your experiences in a different way. And that's it for today. Like I said, subscribe, like, comment, send me an email, and I leave you with this. Always take care of yourself.